Well, God bless you. It's a pleasure to be here, Long Island, New York. We getting more people who are interested in learning with us. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all who are away and watching us. We are excited because today we're going to finish the Perek Chi'i, the 9th chapter of Tractate Bava Batra, and we are on the page of the day. It's a 159, but we will start with the page 158b, 4 lines from the bottom of the page. The subject of the past two Mishnayot that we discuss a lot is the issue of situation of unknown precedent of death, which is a situation of father and son, building, God forbid, collapse, and we don't know who was first to die, and then mother and a son. And we have a discussion of all these nuances and situations when it's come to disputation within the family in regards to inheritance. But there is a furthermore clarification needed when it's come to a subject of Yerusha Bakever. Yerusha Bakever meaning if we have grandfather, father, and a son. Let's just use the name Reuven, and he has a son by the name of Nadav, and he has a grandson by the name of Hanoch. So if Reuven is alive when his son Nadav passed away, and since Reuven inherited to Nadav his estate, it means by Jewish law that the grandson Hanoch can inherit the estate from his father, who is no longer among the living, who entitled to inherit it even after his passing, the estate of his living father, which is Reuven. That's what we learn in the tractate in the Perek Yesh Nochalin. And the idea is how the grandson inherited. Is that a direct line, or is somehow toward this type of process? In general, you see today in many parts of the discussion the subject of kashe bedinei mamonot, which means when it's come to a monetary disputation, there are certain rough spots that we need to deal, because soon you see is those a issue that it's not just cutting corner or just go by the dry law. Examples of our discussion today. A fellow inherited from his father an estate, but inherited meaning that the father wrote the will and it's made in all process correctly with the witnesses, with ma'aseh kinyan, with a matter of acquisition. Everything was made right. And he basically bought something with that potential estate. What does that mean? In Israel you see it a lot. You see it here and there also here. A builder, for example, get an estate and offer apartment units on a paper that's not built yet with a cheap price. The more he gets access to the estate, the more he's able to build a building, the more chances that he, in a way, charge more money for the people, the buyers. Now, situation like that is, in a way, common situation that people buy with understanding that in several years, the estate, the apartment, the townhouse, whatever it is, will be ready. The problem is that this fellow, part of his payment was a putting a lien against potential estate that he potentially deserved to inherit it from his father, which means he showed, for example, the builder the will of his father, and the will show that he entitled, for example, to receive $1 million, and he said to a builder, I signed here for you for $200,000 for this apartment, and even my father is alive, but the moment he's gone, that's part of my inheritance, it's yours. The problem with that is things can change. And the moment things can change, how you treated this type of situation. For example, if you have a estate that's sold and the children come in and they said the sale is invalid, it's us. Or if someone sold his firstborn right in portion, meaning, as we know by the Torah law, the firstborn son deserved double. So let's say if he deserved $1 million and he sold the double, which was the 500,000, and things turn around and change, how you treated those type of situation. Another case we're going to deal, which is a fellow, let's call him Reuven. He signed on a promissory note as a co-witness. And it wasn't just a regular loan, it was a loan that he signed in order to make the loan total legitimate. But at that status, obviously he have all the rights to be a witness. The problem is that Reuven is a grandson of Yitzchak. And it turns that that loan was taken from Yitzchak's brother, which was Ishmael. So the problem is, now Reuven inherited the estate of his, obviously, can be father or toward his father, his grandfather. And within the estate, there is a shtar chov, a promissory note that involved with death, that Reuven himself signed earlier. Now the problem is, he himself cannot mekayem hashtar, he himself cannot possess that a document that he himself was a co-signer for that loan. Now the way, in a simple way to reconcile it, is to have the witnesses that partake of that document and they witness what's happening. But the whole concept of relatives that sometimes cut corner or cover up for other relatives, and as a result it may be an untrue statement, is part of this notion of kashe bedine mamonot, that it's hard when it's come to these nuances when it's a monetary disputation. But furthermore, we're also going to learn the importance of handing over the subject lucidly, clearly. Many times a subject presented and it wasn't full information or wasn't clear enough, and it creates a lot of questions, will lead us to have more clarification. As the Mishnah in Ethics said to us, that we have to investigate it clearly and deeply, but the way of investigation is not to open the door for people to abuse the system. So again, we are on Tractate Bava Batra, page 158b, 4 lines from the bottom of the page. Shalchu mitam, simply speaking, is the sages from over there, from Israel, sent to Babylon, but some rabbis said the opposite. Anyway, the question is, Ben shelavad benichse aviv, bechaye aviv umet. You have here a case of a son, let's call him for Shimon, and he borrowed money based on the security his father, which is Yaakov, property during his father lifetime, bechaye aviv, and then unfortunately he passed away, which is the father passed away, and bno motzi miyad halekochot. Here Shimon, the son of Yaakov, can repossesses the property from the buyer, but he said, "V'zohi shekasha b'dinei mamonot." This is type of halacha that is very hard to explain in the law of monetary disputation, and here is the explanation why it's hard for us to deal with that. Lava mai mapik. The question is, when you have here a situation that the son, Shimon, he borrowed, what exactly he possesses? Because here we talk about him, Shimon, need to repay a debt, not collect payment. So the Rashbam explained, and you see also in the Maharsha, that they said that the son, Shimon, he borrowed money during the life of his father, Yaakov. And since Yaakov is no longer among the living, the son himself can repossess from the buyer that was purchased from him earlier, either him or his late father. Tosfot and Rabbeinu Gershom goes a little differently, but we're going at this point by the Rashbam. Ve'od, and furthermore, lakochot mai avidete. When it's come to the buyers, what exactly is relevant in this matter? There is no mention of all this buyer in this premise. Ela itmar, if you state something, hachei, that's the way in this matter, itmar, that it was stated. 159, itmar ben shemachar benichsei aviv bechaye aviv. Here we not talk about a borrowing money, but selling. You have here a son that he sold a part of estate of his father while his father was alive, but it was all about something that he's not owning it yet, but he will own it when the father died. The problem is the son is no longer among the living, and now the grandson who inherited from his father, umet bno motzi miyad halekochot, meaning the grandson can repossess it from the buyer, וזוהי שקשה בדיני ממונות. This is one of those rough spots. It's hard to explain these halachot when it's come to monetary disputation. V'leimrulei, because they can say to him, meaning the purchaser, the buyer, can say to the son of the son, avuch mezaben ve'at meipik, does you, father, meaning your late father, sold to us this estate, and now you come in and take it out from us. We are the owner of the estate. You did not inherited it, because you not inherited what your father already sold. So how you come and take it from us? Does everyone understand the problem? The problem is the father have and have not the right to sell. He have the right because there is a will that specified that he entitled to that estate. But he doesn't have a right because it wasn't that very day his father, meaning the grandfather, was still alive. So now when the grandson comes in, the problem is, does he have the access or the sale is already done? The way it appears from the question, the sale is not done because the whole inheritance was not taking effect, since at the time of the sale, the grandfather, the one who is basically bestow upon his son the estate, was still alive. So the Gemara said, Umay kushiya, what is the question that you said this is a difficult halachot when it's come to dinei mamonot, the monetary disputation? Dilma matze amar mikoach avuha de'aba ka'atina. The son said to the buyer, I'm inherited my grandfather from my own right, not from my father. Meaning the father has no right to this estate. Why? Because he passed away while my grandfather was still alive. So therefore, I am the one who inherited this estate, and the whole sale is not valid. Teida, dechtiv. You have a pasuk that Amelech David, King David, said in the book of Psalms, chapter 45, Tachat avotecha yihiyu banecha, teshitemo lesarim bechol haaretz. The translation is, in the place of your fathers shall be your sons, and you shall make them into princes throughout the land. Which means, when you use this term, in the place of your fathers, shall be you sons, that the grandson inherits from his grandfather directly and does not inherit through his father. So now, Ella ikashya hakashya. So if you have a concept that it's difficult to rule when it does monitoring and disputation, that's the problem. Ben Bechor, you have a firstborn son, shemachar chelek bechora shelo, that he sold his portion of his estate from his father, meaning, we explained several times that the first son entitled to double portion. So now, while the father was alive, he wrote a will in the proper way, with kinyan, with 2 witnesses, everything was made right. But the firstborn son, as we said, have double portion. So he took that double portion and he sold it while his father was alive. In a way, he sold part of his possession of rights. Now, umet bechaye aviv, and then the son who sold his portion from the firstborn right passed away while his father was still alive, and then the grandfather passed away. Bno motzi miyad halekochot. Now the grandson has the right to repossess it from the buyer. If you remember, the Rashbam said the story of daughter of Tzelofchad in the Torah, by the end of book of Bamidbar, you can find a lot of similarity to that story. Vezoi shekasha b'dinei mamonot. It's still hard for us to understand when it's come to monetary disputation. Avua mezaben iu mapik, the same concept. The father selling an estate and the son basically pulling out from those purchases the estate. In a way, you can argue and say that he never inherited. So how will be able to pull out this from the buyers? So they explain, he may say the same as we said earlier, that I am here because what? The father of my father, not because of my father. So, alright, let's say that this grandson, smart grandson, said that that's my right to have, and in a way is nothing to do with my father. But the problem is, it can happen that you are not a firstborn, or even you are firstborn is only the son, not the grandson. So in that sense, what you collecting here is the extra right of the firstborn that you are not entitled. So if you tell me that it's nothing to do with your father, how you will be able to repossess something that it was only your father entitlement, which is the firstborn double portion? Umay kushya, what type of question is this? Dilma matzei amar, it may happen that he meant to say, mikoach avua de abba ka'atina, ubimkom av ka'imna. So here we go and twist it around the other way. He says, I'm here by the merely a power of attorney or the right to possess from the father of my father. And I am taking the firstborn right because I am in a way substitute for my father. So even I'm entitled to get inheritance from my grandfather independently, because we just said the pasuk in Tehillim, but I'm also taking by merely fact that this is father of my father, the firstborn right, like I was the firstborn son of my grandfather. Why? Because I am substitute for my late father, and therefore I collected his first right instead of himself physically. because the Rashbam explained that's derivative from the text. That the text said that the chelek bechorah, the firstborn, is the obligation. So even the firstborn portion, I, the grandson, can collect it. אלא הקשיא הקשיא היה יודע לו עדות בשטר עד שלא נעשה גזלן, which means you have here a situation that the testimony was written in a document and it was before he became a robber, which means that a person signed a document for someone else as a kosher witnesses, and then ונעשה גזלן, and all of a sudden he is caught as a robber. And the Torah said in the book of Shemot 23 that obviously robber is not a kosher witnesses. The Gemara said in the Sanhedrin 25b. So hu eno me'id al ktav yado, he cannot give a testimony over something that he signed earlier. Aval acherim me'idim, however, other people can give a testimony that this is his signature, and at that time is okay, and even it's hard, but that's the halacha. Hashta ihu lo meiman acharinei mehemnei. Even now, this robber is not trustworthy, but other people are. So therefore, that's one of the halachot that is difficult when it's come to a monetary law. Mai kushia dilma כגון שהוחזק כתב ידו בבית דין. Meaning they have it in the court, his handwriting, before he became robber. So in that sense, we know, the rabbinic court know, clearly that his signature was in that document before this witness became a robber. So it means that you can collect by his testimony since he was okay earlier. אלא הקשיא הקשיא היה יודע לו עדות בשטר עד שלא תיפול בו בירושה. So he knows that the testimony was written in a document. The land came into witness possession as inheritance. So in a way that the witness become a part of that, so it's a interested party. So the witness, who אינו יכול לקיים כתב ידו, he cannot ratify his handwriting, אבל אחרים יכולים לקיים כתב ידו, but others can do that. So you may say that his signature is not true signature, and he signed after the estate came to him in inheritance. So the Gemara said, "Umay kushia dilma hachaname כגון שהוחזק כתב ידו בבית דין." Here again we talk about his handwriting was hold in the rabbinic court before he became the heir of the estate, which means we know clearly that the signature was correct before all of that happened, meaning at the time that he was kosher, he was okay. So therefore other people are trustworthy to have this signature credible. אלא הקשיא יודע לו בעדות עד שלא נעשה דיין חתנו ונעשה חתנו. So originally he was the one who knows, but he was an early stage. Now he is basically his son-in-law. ונעשה חתנו. Now he married whom? His daughter. And as you know, the moment you marry a daughter of someone, you're no longer fitting to be kosher witness because you are now relatives. ונעשה חתנו, הוא אינו מעיד על כתב ידו, אבל אחרים מעידים, he cannot ratify handwritings, but others can do it. הוא לא מהימן, אחרים מהימני. He is not deemed credible, yet others deemed credible. וחיתי מהחב נמי, here you may think that is the same, כגון שהוחזק כתב ידו בבית דין, which is the way that you explain already, תירצת פעמיים, you explained it already twice before he became his son-in-law. So therefore the document is valid. אמר רב יוסף בר מן יומי, אמר רב נחמן, אף על פי שהוא לא הוחזק כתב ידו בבית דין. So how come others are deemed credible? So the Gemara said, Umay kushia, what exactly the difficult here? You can say, Dilma gzerat melechi. Maybe this is the divine decree, gzerat hakatuv. De'iu lo me'eman v'acharine me'emnei. That he is not deemed credible, but others are. V'lav mishum dim shaker. It's not necessarily because he is suspected of lying. Dilotei ma'achem Moshe v'Aaron lechotnam. Can go by the biblical figures. Moshe, his father-in-law Yitro, Aaron, with the story of marrying Elisheva bat Aminadav. Mishum de lo mehemnehu. So you are concerned that they maybe are not truthful. We knew that what they said is truth. So why they are not fitting, not deemed credible to give a testimony for their relatives? Ela gzerat melechu shelo ya'idu lahem. That's the Ritva said is decree of the divine decree. So it means that even a relative can give a testimony for something negative against his relative. So the idea of psul, it's not because we're concerned that he is not truthful, and only the idea is that because of these family dynamics, we have all those concern. But again, there is a lot of rabbinic response, especially the contemporary, how far you go with a nepotism, favoritism, with people who become relatives who are not before. So it's not because we concern or suspect him to be lying, and that's the notion that other people can testify for him, even he himself now under the new circumstance cannot do it. So therefore the Gemara goes to the original explanation, that the question that people in Eretz Israel have a challenge was in regards to son that saw a state of his father when his father was alive and then he passed away, that his son, meaning the grandson, can collect from the purchaser. And the problem with that is, since the father already sold the estate, how the son inherited and can collect it or repossess it from the buyer. We brought this pasuk from Tehillim, that the grandson like son, Hahu bivrachaktiv, over there is just a blessing. The verse does not indicate that the halachic status of the grandson inheritance, and the reason that he can repossess the property is still difficult. So the Gemara said, you mean to say that that pasuk solely and only speaks about blessings? 159b, aval inyan dina lo. But when it's come to halacha, you don't have any clear indication from that. And the Rashbam and Pnei Shlomo explains what the sages of Israel said. This is a difficult halacha when it's come to a mandatory law. It means that they do not have re'ayah, do not have a proof for this halacha. So therefore they ask to find a svara, a logical reasoning to say it. Vehatnan. This is what we learn in a Mishnah, not in a Braita. That's something we learned 2 dapim ago in 157. נפל הבית עליו ועל אביו, עליו ועל מיורישיו, והייתה עליו כתובת אישה ובעל חוב. Here, if you remember, just 2 days ago, we discussed a situation that should never happen to anyone. The house collapsed on the person, his father there, or him and his heir, and והייתה עליו, and it was upon the son, the debt of what? The marriage contract agreement, and creditors, and the disputation is, יורשי האב אומרים, הבן מת ראשון ואחר כך מת האב, ובעל חוב אומר, באב מת ראשון ואחר כך מת הבן. The heir of the father said, guess what? The son passed away first, and then the father passed away, and the people who, the creditors, they said the opposite. The father passed away first, and the son second. So therefore, my love, יורשי האב בני, the heir of the father, that it means that they are sons of the sons, the one who's part of the death of the house, that's basically the heir of the father of their father, or Morishav Achei, the one that the Mishnah said that him and his people who inherited from him, that applies to brothers. Brothers, which means that the house collapsed on him and brother. ויסגרתך לא מצא אמר מכוח עבור דאבא קטנה דכי כתיב ותחת אבותיך יהיו בניך בברכה כתיב כי מת הבן ואחר כך מת האב מה יהווה? So if the son passed away first and then the father, so how they are exempt from paying the debt, נעימה להו בעל חוב, the creditor can say to them, ירושת אבוהון כשקילנה, I am taking it is the father's inheritance that I'm now taking, and as the grandson inherit from the grandfather only through the channel of his father. So the Gemara rejected and said, "No, you cannot have the correct way of understanding this from the Mishnah. Yorshei ha'av echav, morishav achei de'avuha." The father's heir are what? Are the deceased son's brothers. So that for sure they inherited the father directly. And when you use the term, those whom the descent from inherits, that's referring to the deceased son's father's brother. And what you see here, as a result, we cannot derive from this Mishnah that the grandson inherits from his grandfather directly. So now we try to derive another explanation from the last Mishnah we learn on 558b. באו מיני מרב ששת בן מהו שירש את אמו בקבר להנחיל לאחיו מן האב. Here the question is, can son inherited from his mother while he is in the grave, as we explained in the introduction, which is the mother passed away, so in that sense he inherited her in his grave because he preceded her, like in a way he was alive, and therefore he can pass that inheritance to the brothers from his father, that's his heirs. Or you cannot go by the inheritance from a grave, therefore the heir that connected from the mother's side, that's the one who inherited her. אמרנו רב ששת ניתו האב שנשבע ומת בנו במדינה, if the father was taken captive and far away, and the son passed away in the current place that we have the discussion, ובן שנשבע ומת אביו במדינה, and vice versa, יורשי האב ויורשי הבן יחלוקו. The heir from the father and the heir from the son should divide the estate. היכי דמי, אילה מקידי קטני, Hainin Yoshab and Yoshabin. If that's the way we said earlier, who are the heir of the father and who are the heir of the sons? We're running out of time. Okay, so let's just finish the perek. אלעליו הכי כאמר אב שנשבע ומת בן ביתו במדינה ובן שנשבע ומת אבי אמו במדינה ולא ידינן האם מנהי ומת ברישא יורשי האב ויורשי הבן יחלוקו ואם איתן נהי נמי דבן מת ברישא לרתו לאבוה דימי בקברי ולרתו לאחוה מן אבוה אליו שממינה, אין הבן יורש את אמו בקבר להנחיל לאחין מהאב. So just in a second I want to mention the Choshen Mishpat, the code on 280. Consider the case of one who died in captivity while his daughter's son died at home, or one who died at home while his daughter's son died in captivity. Since it is not known which of them died first, in the heir of the father and the heir of the daughters, the daughter's son, divide the father's property between them. Now, as we said in the Choshen Mishpat, we have also the Rema. He said that some rabbis hold that all of the property is under the presumptive ownership of the father's heir, but that's basically what Rabbi Akiva teaches us on page 158b, that the property retains its previous ownership status. That's what we learn המוציא מחברו. Anyway, so the Gemara said, והיא נמי דבן מת בריש עליו ודמים בקברי, לרתינו לאחורה מן אבוה אליו שממינה, הנה מן יורשת עמו בקבר להנחין להכין מאב. אמר לרב אחא בר מניון לאביי, אף ענן מתנין נפל עליו הבית ועל אמו. אלו בו לומדים שיחלוקו, both the heir of the son and the heir of the mother. ואם איתה נמי דבן מת בריש אבל לרתי מלה בקברי, לאחי מאבוה אליו שממינה, הנה בן יורשת עמו בקבר להנחין להכין מן האב שממינה. So it means that if the son passed away first, the heir of the mother from the father's family, these are the people who inherited her. ותמה מאי אמר אביי, נאמרה לשון סיבה בבן, נאמרה לשון סיבה בבעל. We learn because both of them, they use the term siva. One is in the book of Numbers, chapter 36, and because 36:7 and 36:9. So what you see from these two terms in the transfer was done with regard to inheritance of a husband. So we basically juxtaposed the two and we said, just as in a case of categorized the transfer that was stated with regard to the inheritance of the husband does not inherit from the wife while he is in the grave, the same ways applies to the son. מה הסיבה אמורה בבעל הבעל יורשת אשתו בקבר, הסיבה אמורה בבן, הבן יורשת אמו בקבר, להנחיל על האחים מהעבד. So the same way that the husband not inherited from his wife in the grave, the son he not inherited his mother while he passed away first to transfer the ownership to a brother of the father. How דאמר לחברי, נכסה דבר סיסין מזבדין עלה. So he said to his fellow, I'm selling you all this estate that I purchased from a fellow named Bar Sisin. Hava Chada'ara Dava Mikrab Devei Bar Sisin. It was an estate that called by that name. Va'amar le alav Devei Bar Sisinu. That's not one of the estate that I bought from Bar Sisin. Va'akruyu Mikrab Devei Bar Sisin. Atu lekamed Rav Nachman, ukma biyadad lokeach. So he said that this also belongs to him. אמר לרב נחמן, דינא הכי המוציא מחברו עליו הראיה. Don't we learn that the burden of the proof rests upon the claimant, which is in this case the buyer? So they said, Rami Rava Rav Nachman Rav. You have a contradiction within themselves with each Rabba and Rav Nachman. Though אמר לחברי, if a person said to his fellow, מאי בית בהי ביתה, why you dwell in a house that belongs to me? אמר לי, מנח זבנתיך והחליט שני חזקה. I bought it from you and I use it for the 3 years which make it a presumption of ownership. אמר לי, אני בשכונה גבאי הווי. I live in the internal part of the estate all those years. So עטו לקמד רב נחמן, אמר לי, זיל ברור אכילתך. So they came before the Rav Nachman and he said, you know what? You have to, in a way, go clarifying your profiting, which means prove that you really resides there for 3 years, and then the case can be judged. אמר לרב לרב נחמן, דינא הכי המוציא מחברו עליו הראיה, the same idea that the burden of proof rests upon the claimant. קשיא דרבא דרבא, ודרב נחמן לדרב נחמן, דרבא דרבא לא קשיא, המוכר קאי בנכסי, אתם לוקח קאי בנכסי. רב נחמן עד רב נחמן לא קשיא אחא, כיוון דאמר לדבי בר סיסין, מקרא דבי בר סיסין, עלי דידי רמיה לגלוי דלאו דבי בר סיסין היא, הטעם לא יהיה לדנקית שטרה, מלא אמרינן לי קיים שטרח, וקום בנכסי אדרן הלך מי שמת.